What happens when a royal walks into a studio convinced he can steer the conversation only to find the conversation steering him? It starts like any other daytime interview. Polite smiles, warm applause, a host with a stack of cards, and a guest with a set of talking points. But somewhere between question 2 and follow-up 3, the air changes. The smile hardens. The audience stops clapping. Micro expressions do more damage than microphones. And before anyone can find the commercial break button, the whole thing tilts toward a place you can't PR your way out of. This is that interview. ITV's corridors had that polished, slightly frantic energy they get just before the red tally lights come alive. Runners with headsets darted past racks of spare chairs. A makeup artist hustled by, promising to bring powder just in case the lights run hot. In the green room, a producer lowered her voice into that calm, practiced register that always means the opposite. Everything is fine, and also nothing is fine. He arrived with a small entourage, 2 aides, 1 publicist, a security shadow who never unclenched his jaw, Prince Harry, tailored jacket, the carefully neutral tie, the half smile that suggested informality without conceding an inch of control. He shook hands with the floor manager, the stagehand who offered water, and then walked the short hallway toward the set of loose women as if he'd walked 100 like it and mastered the geography of charm. On the other side of the cameras, the panel took their places. Christine Lampard, calm and polished, Nadia Sala, quick warmth in her eyes, Kay Adams, notebook open, pen ready, and Denise Welch, back straight, chin level, voice resting in that deceptively gentle register she used when she intended to listen first and push later. They glanced across the desk at one another, a tiny choreography of raised brows and unspoken agreement. Stay fair, stay focused, stay present. The theme music lifted, bright and breezy, and the audience applause rolled in like a safe tide. Christine welcomed viewers. Nadia waved. Kay flashed a conspiratorial grin toward camera 3, and then Christine turned to the guest chair today. We're joined by the Duke of Sussex, Prince Harry. Thank you for being here. Thank you for having me, he said, the smile settling into position. Great to be here. There's a ritual to these things. Start with the easy stuff. Build a platform of pleasantries. Move toward the discussion you actually came for. Christine nodded him through a warm opening. His recent projects, a charity initiative he was keen to highlight, an anecdote about a military veteran he'd met the previous week. The audience leaned in with the comfort of familiarity. Harry was composed, measured, even funny when he wanted to be. Cameras loved the angles. The crane drifted smoothly. A floor light hummed. Denise watched, the cap on her pen clicking softly beneath her thumb. When Christine finished the gentle ramp, Denise lifted her gaze. You talk a lot about responsibility, she said. In public life, in media, in institutions, I suppose my first question is, what responsibility do you feel you have personally when you speak about the country that shaped you? The smile stayed, but its edges moved. I think with visibility comes obligation, he replied smoothly, to speak honestly about harms and patterns that have been allowed to persist. Patterns, Denise repeated, mild as if laying a word on the table to see what it weighed. Harms. She didn't lean in. She didn't have to. Would you place programs like ours in those patterns? We're British media, after all. A fractional pause. Measurable if you had a stopwatch. Imperceptible if you only had eyes. I draw a distinction, he said, between journalism that tries to inform and practices designed to inflame. Inflame, said Kay, tone light, genuinely curious. That's strong language, sometimes necessary language, he returned, sharper now, but still sheathed. Nadia stepped in with a gentle bridge. Harry, many of our viewers admire your mental health advocacy and your service work. They also wonder about the balance, criticizing institutions while still carrying a title from them. How do you think about that balance? He nodded, appreciative mask back on. I think about service, not structure. Titles are historical. Service is present tense. That's a good line, Denise said, like a teacher marking the margin with a tick. Service over structure. She let the quiet hold for a beat, and yet the platform your words rest on, the microphone so to speak, was built by structure. A small smile sharpened. Or by action, he said. I serve because I chose to serve. Applause sprinkled from the audience, polite but genuine. The publicist offstage relaxed a fraction. The security shadow did. Not. Denise nodded. Let me ask you then. She didn't look down at her cards. She never needed to. About how you decide which questions are fair. You've used phrases like my truth in past interviews. When a presenter asks for specifics, is that legitimate inquiry or an intrusion? The line, he said, is glare, when the conversation stops being about understanding and becomes about spectacle. And who decides when that line is crossed? Denise asked, still even. You, us, the audience at home who only see the final cut. He tapped the arm of his chair once, a controlled gesture. You can feel it, he said. You can feel when a question is asked to illuminate versus agitate. All right, said Kay, pacing the tempo with a broadcaster's instinct. Let's illuminate then. You've given robust critiques of the royal household. Many applauded your candor. Others felt you conflated individual pain with institutional indictment. What do you say to those who ask for specifics, dates, decisions, names, so they can evaluate the claims? He smiled without warmth. I say the specifics exist, and I say I will not feed the beast by turning pain into bullet points for your lower third. The audience made that collective ooh sound daytime crowds make when sugar turns to salt. Christine shifted in her chair. Nadia's brow creased for a second, concern flickering. Kay's pen paused over the page. Denise didn't flinch. No beasts at this desk, she said. Just 4 women with questions and 1 guest with a platform. He laughed, one note, clean and dismissive. I suspect the distinction is felt more keenly on your side of the table than mine. The temperature rose a notch you could feel through a screen. Christine cleared her throat. Let's bring your family into this, only where it serves the conversation constructively, she said carefully. Your wife has spoken about the pressure she faced. Do you regret any of the ways those stories were told? I regret the stories existed, he said. I regret a press machine that monetizes harm. Was every critical story harm? Denise asked, genuine curiosity pressed into a calm line. Or were some of them just that critical? He turned to her fully for the first time. When criticism is couched in dehumanizing frames, yes, it's harm. And when it isn't, Denise asked, then it's still part of a broader pattern. He said almost reflexively now, a train pathway carving through a tense forest. When you're living inside the blast radius, you stop cataloging shrapnel. Nadia offered a soft, humanizing angle. We appreciate you being here, she said. It's not easy to sit at this table and be asked pointed things. Our viewers notice courage. Courage, he echoed. I'd call it courtesy. And he let the words sit, edged. Denise's pen clicked again. Tiny metronome of patience. Harry, just to ground us, she said. Tone like cool water. You're not a working royal now. That's your choice, and we respect it. But it changes the equation. You're here as a public figure who chooses publicity on your terms. We're a program that asks questions on ours. That's not hostility. That's a conversation. He nodded once, the kind of nod that says, I heard the words and did not accept the premise. And yet somehow, he said, the conversation always seems to arrive at the headline you wanted before we began. Kay glanced toward the gallery, an old broadcaster's reflex to see if the gallery wanted a pivot. The gallery did not. They wanted clarity. Christine tried to modulate. Let's do something simple. She said, you've spoken about reform. What does success look like? Not a slogan, one concrete change you'd want to see in British media. One, he let a half-second pass. Stop paying for pictures taken without consent. Stop purchasing what you know was obtained by harassment. See? 2, easy. That is concrete, Nadia said, nodding. And fair. Fair, Denise said softly, is such an interesting word. She held his gaze as if it were a shared, fragile object. Is it fair to ask about the interviews where you chose the venue, the timing, the lighting, and the edit? Is it fair to ask whether my truth sometimes functioned as the truth in the court of public opinion? Is it fair to ask if you've ever benefited from clicks, from contracts, from the attention you say is harmful? The publicist off stage inhaled sharply through her nose. The security shadow's eyes swept the edges of the set again, though the only danger in the room was 4 questions in a row. He sat back, something flinty behind the smile. "Now, is it fair?" he replied, mirroring her cadence. "To pretend there's parity between a haunted private life and a studio? Set you can leave when you're done." "Parodies are rarely perfect," Denise said, "but parallels illuminate. You know that. You draw them constantly. You compare your life in Britain with your life in America. You compare institutions, palace, and press when the comparison suits the point. Let me try one. You chose to step back from royal duties, so why not step back from the titles too? Why keep the signifier if you don't want the system?" The audience did not. "Ooh." They went very, very quiet. He didn't answer right away. You could hear a studio light buzz, a cable shift against the floor. Then the smile returned, toned like a blade. "Because I don't throw away history to satisfy daytime theatrics," he said. Nadia's eyes closed for a breath. Kay's pen resumed its scratch. Christine's lips pressed together. The broadcaster's version of a flinch. A corner of Twitter cracked open somewhere. Pre-drafting outrage and defenses. Denise's voice stayed level. "Plenty of military veterans remove their rank insignia when they leave service," she said quietly. "They don't lose their history. They just stop wearing it like a badge that answers every question before it's asked." He didn't blink. "Some honors are earned," he said. "Some are convenient to sneer at when you've never worn them." "Careful," Kay said, a half laugh, half warning in her tone. "She's worn a few herself, just different kinds." "I value the work you all do," he said, and the sentence came out like a formality issued at a customs desk. "But let's not pretend the loudest voices in this country haven't decided that any choice I make counts against me. If I show up, I'm chasing attention. If I stay quiet, I'm sulking in Monocto. If I speak about mental health, I'm mining trauma. If I say nothing, I'm hiding something. It's a rigged game." "It feels rigged," Denise agreed. For a lot of people who can't afford advice from 3 solicitors and a crisis manager, she softened her mouth into something that almost looked like sympathy, which is why specifics matter. "Let's come back to that word." He exhaled, not quite a sigh. "And let's come back to decency," he replied, "if that's still in fashion." There was a tiny ripple of laughter from the audience, uncertain testing the water. The laughter fell away when Denise didn't smile. "Decency," she said, "begins with answering questions that you raise yourself." "Decency," he said, "begins with not asking for receipts on someone else's grief." Silence again. The cameras loved it. The producers quietly aride the show's pulse, let it breathe for a 3 count that felt like 10. Christine tried to land a safer plane. "We're going to talk about your new initiative in a moment," she said. "It sounds impactful, and we absolutely want to give it space. But first, because our viewers will ask if we don't when you've criticized the monarchy broadly, have you ever regretted the collateral damage to individuals who never had your platform?" He didn't look at Christine. He kept his eyes on Denise. "I regret that people confuse accountability with betrayal," he said. "Some would say," Denise replied, "they regret that you confuse attention with accountability." The publicist's expression crossed the boundary from concern to alarm. Off stage, someone whispered to someone else to hold the brake. Nadia leaned forward with the gentlest possible prompt. "Harry, if there's one misconception you'd like to correct, what is it?" "That I'm angry," he said quickly, instinctively. "I'm not angry." Denise tilted her head a millimeter. "You don't sound calm," she said not unkindly. "And you don't sound neutral," he replied very much unkindly. Now the audience made a sound, taken in breath through teeth. A chorus of "uh-oh." Kay put her pen down as if the table were a chessboard, and someone had finally moved a queen. "You know what?" Denise said softly. "The soft that warns rather than soothes. I've spent a lot of years being called not neutral for asking simple follow-ups. It's a hazard of the job, but I don't mind hazards. I mind hedges." She held his gaze. "So let's prune one. When you say my truth, what exactly does that mean in practice? Does it mean you won't answer questions that might complicate the story you prefer to tell?" He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. "It means my lived experience is not subject to your panel's approval," he said at last. And it means you don't get to decide which parts count and which parts are convenient to ignore. Then help me not ignore, Denise said. Give me something I can't miss. That was when the set changed. Not the furniture, not the lights, the balance, the invisible fulcrum that divides. Conversation from combat shifted under every chair. At once he leaned forward, finally placing both hands on the armrest as if the chair itself were a podium. You want specifics? He said, calm as a held blade. Let's start with the ecosystem that puts this show on a chart next to papers that paid for hacked voicemails and stolen photos and calls it all the same media. You want to talk responsibility? Start there. We have talked about that on this program, Kay said, voice steady often. And yet here we are, he replied, parsing whether my wife's pain was sufficiently itemized for your segment producers. Nadia's hands came up, palms open. No one here is parsing pain. We're asking how you want public life to change. He sat back again, a wrathful smile that didn't reach his eyes. Public life doesn't change by pretending difficult questions are neutral when they're not. Denise didn't blink. Public life doesn't change by pretending difficult answers are sacred when they're not. A red tally light blinked on the main camera, a silent signal from the gallery that they were 3 minutes from the hard break. Christine touched the edge of her stack of cards, a hostess's subtle plea to land this plane on a runway and not in a field. All right, she said with the humane firmness of someone pulling two strangers apart in a supermarket queue. We're going to pause, and then if you're willing, Harry, we'll give your new project the space it deserves because it does deserve it. He nodded, polite again on the surface, the water smoothed by a hand. Denise reached for her mug, took a measured sip, and set it down without looking away from him. When we come back, she said, voice calm, eyes very clear, let's talk about the difference between service and branding, because I think our viewers know one when they see it. The crane camera began its slow, graceful retreat. The light shifted a half stop for the transition. Somewhere off stage, the publicist put her hand against a cinder block wall and took a deeper breath than she meant to. And then the music swelled. The screen dipped toward adverts, and across the desk, Harry's jaw set in a line he hadn't brought with him into the building. When the cameras returned from the break, the tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. The audience clapped politely, but even they sensed this was no longer a routine celebrity interview. It was a slow-motion car crash headed straight for a wall. Prince Harry sat stiffly in his chair, jaw locked, while Denise Welch calmly shuffled her notes as if nothing had happened. All right, Denise began with a practiced smile. Let's talk about your new initiative. Harry leaned forward. I'd be delighted to if we can keep this civil. The audience gave a low murmur. Denise's smile didn't falter. Civil Harry is exactly what I've been. But let's be clear, you're not a working royal anymore. You don't represent the crown. You're here as a public figure, one who often criticizes institutions while still clinging to their privileges. That's fair ground for discussion. The smile dropped from Harry's face. With respect, Denise, I don't need a lecture on who I am. I've built my own path. And yet, Denise replied evenly, every headline still begins with Prince Harry, not Harry the advocate, not Harry the campaigner. You're still leaning on the very name and institution you say nearly destroyed you. That struck a nerve. Harry's voice sharpened. I've earned my place, my service, my work. Your family's name, Denise cut in, her voice steady but icy now. Without it, you wouldn't even be sitting in that chair. And you know it. The audience gasped. Christine and Nadia shifted uncomfortably, but Denise pressed on. You talk about wanting freedom, Harry, but freedom means standing on your own, not cashing in on the crown while condemning it. Harry's face flushed crimson. That's outrageous. I came here to highlight real issues, not to be humiliated. No one's humiliating you, Denise shot back. You're doing that yourself by refusing to answer questions and lashing out when someone doesn't play along with your script. And then she said it, the words that would replay across every social feed within the hour. You don't deserve this seat today, Harry. You're not here because of your work. You're here because of your surname. And if that's all you've got, then maybe you don't belong here at all. For a moment, there was silence so heavy it seemed to smother the studio lights. Harry stood abruptly, his chair screeching backward. I don't have to take this. Denise didn't flinch. Then don't. There's the door, the cameras. Caught everything. The stunned audience, Harry's furious expression, and Denise Welch, arms folded, refusing to yield. Without another word, Harry stormed off set, his entourage scrambling after him. The audience erupted, half in shock, half in applause. Denise turned back to the camera, her voice calm and cutting. And there you have it, folks. Sometimes the crown feels heavy, especially when it's only being worn for show. Fade to black. And that was it. Prince Harry storming off the loose women, set in one of the most unforgettable daytime clashes ever broadcast. A moment that started with polite smiles and charity talk, ended with Denise Welch reminding him live on air that titles can't shield anyone from tough questions. But now it's your turn. What did you think? Was Harry unfairly treated, or did Denise simply hold him to the same standard as any other public guest? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, because this debate is far from over. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to hit that like button. Subscribe for more explosive interviews and behind-the-scenes drama, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next showdown. After all, if this is what happens in broad daylight on live TV, just imagine what goes on when the cameras stop rolling.